James, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You have a new documentary out on Hulu called 3212 Un-Redacted. There's a lot of information that about the 2017 attack in Niger. They killed 4 American service members. Tell us a little bit about your documentary.
Thank you. Well, this is a film produced for ABC News that is now streaming on Hulu, which I produced with my great colleagues, Brian Epstein and Andy Fredericks as co-producers. And it's based on, it's a story about the ambush of Operational Detachment Alpha 3212, which was a Green Beret team operating in Niger, West Africa in 2017 on a train, advise, assist mission. And they got into an ambush. They were ambushed by an ISIS force that was actually 10 times their number, and it resulted in 4 U.S. service members, 4 special operations soldiers who were killed in action. And it was an incident that at the time that seemed to really shock Washington in particular. It shocked the military, it shocked the Pentagon, it shocked the Trump White House, and it shocked Congress for some reason that a lot of folks didn't seem to realize we were operating combat missions in Niger.
So James, even if someone's been following the news since 2017 and they see the film, they're going to see new footage and new information. What is some of that new information that somebody's going to see?
So we looked at the report done by AFRICOM about this incident in which several accusations were made. And we drilled down. I did an investigation for 3.5 years to try to ascertain what had happened. And what I found was that this team did not go rogue on an unapproved mission by their senior commanders, as was alleged. They were not trying to kill an ISIS commander. They were actually trying to find him and track him, and they were actually not incompetent. In fact, they fought with extraordinary valor. The 4 men who died had never been in combat before, but they fought to the last round with bullets ripping through their flesh and bone. They fought to the death till their last breath. And then finally, the suggestion made by AFRICOM that they were somehow looking for intelligence on an American kidnapped a year earlier in 2016 was absolutely false. They were not looking for any intelligence about that American.
So a lot of the pain came from the actual incident. A lot of it was how the information was disseminated.
I mean, it's really unusual since 9/11 and the 20 years of warfare in many war zones to have a U.S. service member reported missing in action. And that's what happened on October 4th, 2017. Sergeant Lee David Johnson was reported missing in action after the gunfight in Tongo Tongo. And so a day after his family was notified of that, they got a phone call from an Army officer who told them that Lee David had actually been captured by the enemy. And then another 24 hours passed and the second knock at the door came, and Maisha Johnson, his widow, was informed that his body had been found. But it was really never explained why that phone call came about.
Did anybody ever find out who called her?
Never ascertained who called her, but they first told me about that in 2018, and a little over a year later, I found in the AFRICOM 268-page redacted report mention of this uncorroborated, unconfirmed intelligence report that was proven false, and I eventually got a hold of people who had been directly involved in the search for Lee David and knew all the details about that report, and were shocked that his family would have been told about it.
And I watched the movie last night. It was a lot of stories of the families of the soldiers themselves. We didn't hear a lot from the command. Why was that?
Well, the command, this is quite interesting. You know, reprimands were laid onto all the low-level guys, the company commander on down, the detachment commander, you know, the team sergeant, the intel warrant, and other low-level people involved in the mission. But the senior commanders at the battalion and 3rd group level, Lieutenant Colonel David Painter and Colonel Brad Moses, were not punished in a way that ended their careers. In fact, the Senate actually blocked their promotions, not the Army, which promoted them. And this was a big question, why? You know, why were they not held accountable when they made the decisions about the mission? And they essentially disappeared. They essentially ghosted their own subordinates who were reprimanded. They ghosted the press. They ghosted the families. And Colonel Brad Moses, you know, I interviewed by phone a year ago, and he was the 3rd Special Forces Group commander. He was the only person who didn't receive any sort of a reprimand, and he said that decision to not speak to anyone had been a poor decision, and it had not really been very thought out or wise.
There was a lot of anger towards the command because of the way the information was disseminated. There was maybe no accountability from the government, but it seems like something that the family's not going to forget. And I mean,
I think that the families all feel that the Pentagon, the current Pentagon under Secretary Lloyd Austin, and I think other folks in Congress feel this way as well, and veterans groups should review the investigation and correct the record, that our film may provide the reason and roadmap for that. And also the Valor Awards that were downgraded. Several of the Valor Awards were downgraded, including a recommended Medal of Honor for Staff Sergeant Dustin Wright of Lyons, Georgia, and also Sergeant First Class Jeremiah Johnson. There's new video. The French recently recovered the actual full 45-minute helmet cam, portions of which ISIS had released itself as part of a propaganda video back in 2018. The French recovered the full video, and the families have all watched it now and have seen the extraordinary valor, even more than anyone was aware of these men who lost their lives. They really did fight to the death and never quit.
Is the current Pentagon, they must have eyes on this right now?
The current Pentagon issued a statement saying that they had promised a thorough and fair investigation that was also accurate, and did not really do much to defend the investigation done during the Trump administration, and certainly did not promise any sort of a new review, at least not yet.
Can you tell our viewers where they can watch it themselves?
It's on Hulu, streaming on Hulu since Veterans Day, and that's the best and only place that they can watch it, and I hope that people will. And obviously, for combat veterans and Gold Star families, they need to understand that it's a tough film to watch. I've gotten a lot of feedback from folks veterans who had to pause the film on a number of occasions because of their own emotions, but they finish it and they feel that we were tough but fair and honored the fallen, and of course also honored those families, which was something we really made profound efforts to do. And I'm very close to most of the family members today, and they're remarkable people, and they deserve better than what they got, as did their fallen loved ones.
I watched the movie last night. I really enjoyed it. I used the pause button myself quite a bit. Having that GoPro footage is really unlike anything I've seen before.
Yeah.
James, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you guys taking a look at this, and thank you so much for watching our documentary.
Oh, you bet.